So in this video, I'm going to be sharing with you a few tips on how to improve the results of your fairisle knitting. The video is designed to be a helpful tool to go alongside the fairisle patterns that I have published on Ravelry. So when I first started fairisle knitting a few years ago, I made a hat pretty similar to this, a simpler pattern. And when it was finished, it looked really good. I was really pleased with it. When I put it on, I found that the fairisle band around was very tight around my head and really uncomfortable. So I actually couldn't wear the hat. And so in this video, I'm going to try and help you to improve the outcome of your fairisle knitting, particularly in small circumference items like hats and socks. Now, the first tip is really simple. Some patterns do tell you to do this and quite a lot don't. And simply going up half a needle size to do the pattern is really helpful in avoiding that tightness. So here I did the rib in a 4mm needle, and then as soon as I started the fairisle pattern, I moved up to a 4.5. And that I found is a really easy, simple way of really making a difference. Another really easy one, somebody once actually told me this. They said, oh, turn your knitting inside out. And I was thinking, well, you know, what do you mean turn it inside out? Wouldn't I then have to do it backwards way on and purl and rows and upset the pattern and things? And actually all he meant was this, was that you just turn it like that and then carry on knitting the pattern, normal, just knit stitches in the round. And just it coming around the outside like that just seems to result in a sort of a slightly looser finish. So I generally will be knitting when I'm doing my fairisle. I'm generally knitting like that with the piece just inside out, and then yes, at the end you just turn it back and it doesn't alter your pattern. So that's another really good idea, just to help get a slightly looser finish. This one might sound a little bit strange, but I've found this just personally, that if you really relax and relax your hands, I don't know, I just feel that has a good effect on it as well. And also anybody who's done fairisle knitting will know what it's like to, you end up tangled up. And if you don't untangle it, you can end up with very tight threads, and that isn't helpful. So if you regularly untangle your thread, and I know there's some really good ways of not tangling it up in the first place. I've never got to grips with that, so I'm sure this will be familiar to a lot of you, is just doing that, just that. Even if you don't ever find a fancy way of not tangling up, if every so often you just make sure that your threads are untangled, your hands are relaxed, again, that is another really helpful thing to do. Okay, so now I'm actually going to do a bit of knitting for you, and this is catching the floats, or trapping the floats as some people call them. So some fairisle patterns, including this one that I designed, will have longer spells of one colour. And what can tend to happen is that at the back of your work, you can tend to get a long float, a long piece of wool. And the reason why that isn't very good is because when you put your hat on, that will stretch tight. And again, it will make a sort of tight band of fairisle. So it's really good if you can learn how to catch or trap the floats into the knitting itself. And I've been doing that here in this hat, because there's a bit on here where you're required to knit 7 stitches. But I tend to think anything over 4, I start to trap the floats in the back. And what it does is it makes a neater fabric. You don't get all those long floats that pull tight when you put the garment on, and it results in a really nice stretchy fabric actually. So and a really neat result. So there's lots of different ways of doing this, and I watched lots of videos and really couldn't get the hang of it. And in the end, I found a really simple way to do it, and this is how I do it. And I'll just show you. It is a simple way of doing it. So here I'm on a section that requires me to knit 7, which is too long a float for me. So I will go 1, 2, 3, 4, which is my maximum, and then go into the 5th one as if you are going to knit it, and instead of knitting it, get your contrast colour and I pull it into my fingers there and carry on, effectively knitting it into the back, and then it's trapped, you see. And then when you've done that, don't pull it too tight, because again it'll tighten up the fabric. Again, don't leave a really big loop like that, there's no need. But if you just pull it so that it's not quite pulled in, so it's not quite touching your knitting, and then you would move on, just carry on with the pattern. I'll show you again. So after 4, that is when I'll start to do this. And I just prefer the result really, because it's just nice and neat and stretchy. So here we go, we've gone to 4, go into the 5th as if you're going to knit, but instead of knitting, pull that there into those fingers, then carry on knitting. To 7. I've got 7, yes, and it's trapped it in the back. And then I've got my brown. So I don't pull it too tight, but I don't leave too big a loop. I just nice and relaxed hands, knit that stitch, and I'll show you one more time. 1, 2, 3 and 4, and then slowly into there, pulling it in front of there, and there we go. And that is how I do it anyway, but obviously you might find a way that suits you better. But the point is that if you can do it, if you can learn to trap any float, any pattern that gets above 5, certainly above 5 stitches in a row, you can see it makes this nice neat finish at the back and really stretchy, and that is what you're aiming for. Okay, and lastly, this is just a little finishing off tip. When you are knitting in the round and you come to your marker and you change rows, inevitably you do get what we call a jog, where the pattern doesn't quite marry up. You know, I've tried to find various ways around that, do different things, but you never quite end up with it perfect. So to be honest, little bit of a cheat actually here for you now. All I tend to do, this hat here is a finished version, a slightly smaller little boy's version of this hat, and you can see here it's not, there's a little jog there where there's a break in the colour, same there actually. You know, to be honest, you could leave it, because really you'd have to look quite closely at it to see that imperfection. But if you really wanted to be a perfectionist about it, all I do really is I come in, I actually just get the colour, and rather than leaving it, I'll just tend to sew over it, just to sort of marry up where the jog was. And you can see it's actually fine. No one's really going to notice that. And then there's here, I don't know what's happened there. I think that was just again, it's to do with the jog. Why not just go in and bit of green there where that should be, and then it just takes it up to. It matches it up just with every other bit of the pattern there. Yeah, I just do that, and you know, I think it's fine. And then at the end, you can just weave the ends really easily into the fabric, and there you go. That's all right. And you know, it's just I think from a distance nobody's going to see and nobody's going to notice. You'll probably forget where it was yourself, and then at the end, yes, just simply into there. Get my favourite scissors, snip, and I'll do the same with the other one. And to be honest, I don't think anybody would be the wiser, and that's how I do it. Well, and I hope you found this video useful. I kind of feel that they're sort of real life tips to use in everyday fairisle knitting. that everybody can use, and hopefully will just improve the results, particularly in small circumference items like hats and socks. Okay, thank you for listening. Bye.